This is the Franchise QB Podcast, where we empower entrepreneurs to win big in franchising. We huddle up weekly to educate our audience about the most successful small business model ever created, franchising.
Welcome to the Franchise QB Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Halpern, a 20-year industry veteran and entrepreneur. My mission is for listeners to achieve their American dreams of creating wealth and independence through franchise ownership. Every week, we speak with franchisees, franchisors, or vendors that support the industry. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started. Joining us in the huddle today is Roman Maliszewski, President and CEO of Tapster. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, great to have you. So I love the background. I can see you're in one of the locations there in Philly. Really cool. So Roman, you're the founder and CEO of Tapster, a leading self-pour tasting room franchise, reshaping the way communities connect. With a background in advertising and self-pour tech, you launched Tapster in 2017, so 8 years ago. Today, the fast-growing franchise thrives with tasting rooms across the U.S., blending innovation, sustainability, and connection in every pour. And as I mentioned to you in the green room, my wife and I just dropped our oldest son off at college for his freshman year in Lexington, Kentucky. He's going to UK. And we got to visit the Tapster location right across from Rupp Arena there. Killer location, really cool space, really enjoyed our time there. So Roman, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with self-pour technology.
Yeah. So, and I appreciate the intro. So I originally was in advertising. So right out of college, I was in the ad space for many years, doing ad sales, traveling around the country. And it was fun. I enjoyed it, but it was never fulfilling to me. I didn't feel like it was something that gave me a lot. So I took some time off and decided, after some just respite, time to relax and hang out was what do I want to do next? And so there was a bar, I was living in Chicago at the time, and there was a bar in River North that had a bunch of booths, and it had taps in the booths. So there's two taps coming out of the booths, and I would take clients there sometimes. You just give a credit card to the server. She would open up the taps, and it would be Bud Light and some kind of tequila. And so you just sit there and pour this tequila and Bud Light with everybody. And it was a blast.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
It was a great. And so when I was thinking about what I want to do next, I really liked the idea of bringing something new to the bar space. And so my vision was really take that concept of what's on the tables and do what's behind me, which is a wall of taps that you can do. So I didn't know where to begin. So I went back to that same bar and I asked them who does this technology? How does it work? Luckily, the founder of that tech company, which is called Pour My Beer, was based outside of Chicago. Okay. So I got in the car, went out there, met the founder and said, here's my vision. Here's what I want to do. And within 30 minutes, he had offered me a job to work for My Beer because I had been in sales for so long and I was kind of in between jobs. So I actually went and worked for him. Okay. Josh Goodman. Yeah. For about 2 years. So I was learning everything about Pour My Beer and working towards this as the main concept versus the tables. And meanwhile, working on a business plan, figuring out exactly what I want to do for my concept, learning from everybody I was selling to. And that's kind of how I came to it. But really wanting to create something new and different in the bar restaurant space, because personally, I don't like to just sit around and do nothing. I like to be active. And so this added to that, and it's been a blast so far. So far,
really cool. Thank you for the backstory. It's kind of cool how you took clients there with kind of your old job, and then that kind of led you to this aha moment that helped you launch this Tapster concept. So I got to ask, how did you pick the name Tapster? It seems relatively intuitive, but is there more to it?
Yeah, there is. A lot of people think I made it up, but because it sounds kind of fake. But I was thinking about bartenders. So you're the bartender in this concept. And so I started looking up synonyms of bartenders. So, barkeep, bar back, whatever you could think of. And Tapster is actually a really old word for a bartender. I think it originated in like the 1500s in England, in the countryside. So whoever was at the tap at your local pub was called a tapster. And so I was like, this is too perfect. But It
There it
definitely
is.
sounds like a tech app or something like that too sometimes.
That's cool. So, Roman, for someone who's never been, how does the Tapster self-pour experience feel different than walking into, say, a traditional bar?
Yeah, I think right away you walk in and there's taps that you can walk up to that are, on the opposite side. Usually all the taps at a bar are behind the bar and
Right.
you can't touch them. Here you walk in and you literally have a quick line of sight right to the taps. I think that's originally what it is. But then the process really is you walk up to our host stand, and we actually call it a card stands because you're going to get one of these cards.
Okay.
So it's an RFID card. You give us a debit or credit card that just connects to this card, and then you're open. So you can go up to these taps and you can decide what you want to try. You tap your card there. It knows who you are, how much you drank, and then you can sample different things. So really the idea is less about what you're going to, drink a ton, is just try a bunch of different things.
Very cool. And I can imagine that beer is probably the majority of what is consumed at Tapster, but do you offer different types of beverages as well?
Yeah. So at Tapster, we offer beer, wine, cocktails, kombucha, cold brew coffee, mocktails, so everything. And the real thought there was not everybody likes just beer. People like to. There's groups of people that come in and they get really excited when there's cocktails on draft, and we make all the cocktails, put them in kegs. And there's a huge crew that doesn't like drinking, so ensuring that we have some non-alcoholic taps is really important. So I just wanted to make sure to be inclusive of everybody, what they're trying, and again, you can just go up and sample things. You don't have to pour a full glass. So the variety is really important to me.
I love that. You can just put together a flight. You can take a little bit. You can get a full pint, whatever you want to do. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and also there's a funny thing that I've seen is people mixing. So not just cocktails, which obviously you could mix two different cocktails and are non-alcoholic. People are sometimes mixing beers, which is super random and interesting to me too. I mean, I don't know if I 100% recommend it all the time, but it's fun and it makes for a fun experience,
Yeah, and also it's probably embarrassing to go to a bartender and say, "Hey, give me half Ultra and half an IPA." But if you're doing it yourself, you're looking around, you're "Yeah, I'm going to give it a try and see." And if it doesn't work, no one's going to know.
Totally. Yeah.
So I've heard you say that Tapster is not in the bar business, but in the lifestyle business. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to do is create a space and a community center for people to come, hang out with their friends, do different events, whether it's trivia or listening to music or hosting events. That's really what I'm aiming at, is less so, hey, let's go drink. And it's more, let's go meet our friends and hang out and be a part of, our community, our neighborhood. And so that's really where I see the growth coming, is not focusing just on drinks. It's focusing on different community centers across the U.S., bringing people together, creating a cool, fun space where you can meet different people and hang out. And the self-pour concept it's a little counterintuitive because a lot of people assume, oh, you're just going to do your own thing. You're going to get a drink. You'll never talk to anybody. You just kind of do your own thing. Mm-hmm. It actually becomes the opposite. The tap wall behind me becomes the epicenter of where everybody hangs out. And they get to talk to anybody coming up to the wall. And you can see what somebody got and ask them, hey, how is that? Was that any good? And that to me is really the crux of the whole thing I
love
sure.
I think it's really cool to kind of build the concept around a community first approach and making that social element like a reason why people come and congregate, not just because you have great beer. I see something really interesting about your concept. Tapster has what you call a BYOF, bring your own food, that allows guests the freedom to kind of pair their drinks with whatever they want. So pizzas, tacos, whatever. And that allows, you as a franchise owner or an operator to focus on creating a great, relaxed, welcoming environment and eliminating the need for the full kitchen. So I want to hear about kind of the mindset behind that. And then also, can guests bring their own food and or choose the delivery apps? Is it kind of really up to the guest?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Originally, I had tried, I've never been in this industry before this when I started. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know much about the bar industry, let alone restaurants and food, which I just know it's complicated and it's hard to do well. Right. So I consciously didn't want to mess with it because from what I've read and understood and researched, there's a lot of waste and there's a lot of ability to do it wrong. And so I figured if I can take that out, it'll be a lot easier. Luckily, around this time, everybody was going and ordering online and Uber Eats and everything like that was really growing at the same time as we were. So what I decided to do was pick a restaurant or a quick serve spot on our block or within 2 blocks. I would go talk to the owner and say what we're doing. We're bringing a lot of volume. We just need somebody to deliver food. Now, Uber Eats and DoorDash take about 25 to 30% from restaurants when they deliver the food. My point of view was, I'm not going to take anything. I'm going to let you help me grow my revenue. You've already got enough struggles. The restaurant's not easy. I'm not going to take any revenue from you. I just want to grow and have good food. So they loved it, right? So in every market I've done this, they really appreciate that. And so we put their QR codes on our tables. So our guests can scan. It goes right to their kitchen. They deliver it right to your table. So if, hypothetically, if we didn't tell people that we don't have food and we just said Tapster, restaurant, they wouldn't know the difference because the food comes in really quickly and it's right there. So that's what we've
really
done.
Cool.
And thank you. Yeah. And we've expanded from just one partner in certain markets to 2 or 3 partners just because there's variety and there's so many different quick serves around us. But yeah, it's been a blast. But also people can order whatever they want. If they want to do a DoorDash, or Uber Eats.
But I think it's really cool. Like, you're supporting local businesses, you're making it frictionless for the guest, you're making it great for the partner restaurant, and you're making it good for anyone that's in Tapster, because like you don't have that extra labor component. You open up a lot more real estate because you don't need the vents and the hoods and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's unique, and I think it's really helpful for someone that wants to pursue this as a franchise model. Which kind of leads me to my next question. I mean, at what point did you determine, so you launched it in 2017, when did you determine that it made sense to kind of offer this as a franchise model?
That's a funny story. Yeah, so I never knew about franchising. The only thing I knew franchising was McDonald's, right? So that's, in my mind, that was franchise. So within a month or 2 of opening the first Tapster in 2017, people started asking me, is this a franchise? And then after that, it was almost every week. Somebody would come in and say, is this a franchise? And I would get insulted first. First I was, I thought this was a unique concept. I thought I had my own thing going, and they're thinking I'm part of some franchise. So what I failed to understand at the time, which I do now, was that the branding was really in place. The process was really clean. Everything was so buttoned up that they assumed it had to be templatized. It had to be somebody worked this out, which is a huge compliment to me. So I kind of took it that way, and then, started researching how to become a franchisor. And then I got I became a franchisor, I guess, in 2018. But again, I didn't know anything about this. So I didn't have a team. I didn't have anything. I had an FDD and operations manual, and I just sat on it. I just was like, okay, cool. Doors open. I guess people can come in. So that was really what made it happen. So I would never have thought this on my own.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because people hear the word franchise, and of course they think of Chick-fil-A and McDonald's and Taco Bell, like a cookie cutter QSR. I mean, your concept also is extremely unique, and I want you to go into that a little bit in terms of the trade dress, the decor. It seems like when I went to your Lexington spot, looking at the one you're in now, that you give the franchise owners some freedom to kind of bring in some local flavor, bring in their own kind of local personality. Was that the intent?
Yeah, I think it's kind of my personality, as well as, filtered into Tapster, that I don't want things the same. I don't want it to be cookie cutter. And I don't think translating something that's this much of a community hub would work if I just did the same thing everywhere. I think there'll be elements that are similar, right? The tap wall will kind of always look the same, but I want the look and feel to feel like that neighborhood, that city. So in Lexington, it's different. In Seattle, it's different. In Cleveland, it's different. Chicago, it's different. So I like letting kind of the local operator kind of filter their own vibe and the neighborhood's vibe. Obviously, I'll be involved in that process, and I like being involved in that process, but we'll never be the cookie cutter franchise. And I know it's, since meeting other franchisors, it's kind of cliche to say we're the anti-franchise franchise. So I'm not going to go there, but the overall gist is this will never look exactly the same no matter where you are. It'll feel the same, but it'll never look the same.
Right. And not to confuse our viewers that are watching this, you're wearing the Tapster Lexington shirt, but you're standing in the Tapster Center City, Philadelphia location.
Yeah,
and I appreciate
correct, yeah.
Tapster. We're in the UK, blue and white. That's pretty cool. So from an operator standpoint, because when people think about getting in the food space, they get freaked out because there's just a lot of moving parts. What makes Tapster smarter, more scalable than a traditional bar or restaurant?
Yeah, I think we don't have food, right? So that takes out a huge component of your build out costs as well as your kind of staffing costs. So that those two elements alone are enough to put us way ahead of other concepts. But then also when we're operating here, you can do it with very minimal staff, right? You don't need a lot of people to run a Tapster. If we're slammed here on a Friday and Saturday night, I can run it with 3 or 4 people. And that's over 1,000 people coming through the door. And the beauty of that to me, and a lot of operators and franchisors or just business folks will say, oh, well, that's great, man. You could, your operating costs are low. You don't have to pay the staff that much. I kind of look at it the other way. I have so few staff, I can pay them much better. It kind of, it adds to your retention. So really what I'm looking for is a lot less staff, but I can pay them more and they're happier and they're more, because basically you're not pouring drinks here, right? I mean, in essence, you're kind of a host, but I need you to be a really good host. I need you to be at the taps, talking to people all the time, kind of helping them through the process, being an advocate for different types of drinks. So really it requires a lot of interaction from my team that is important.
Yeah, no, I like that the staff can focus on the guest experience. I think that is something that gets lost in hospitality sometimes. So let's kind of shift gears and talk about the franchise partner. Like in your view, who makes the best Tapster franchise partner? Do they need industry experience, passion for hospitality? Who do you see that ends up translating into a really good owner in your system?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'd be pretty hypocritical if I said, as the guy who's never done this before and starting it, that you need to be in the industry. So I think let's start with, you don't need to have been in the bar or restaurant industry. That's flat out. You do need to be somebody who's very proud of where you live, who's embedded in your community and your culture of your town or your city. And you want to be an advocate for that place. You want to promote the cool beers and drinks from that city. And obviously, or not obviously, you need to be hyper social, right? You need to be the person that goes and talks to everybody when you're out and about. When you're in the airport, you talk to people. When you're on the train, you talk to people. You're not obnoxiously, but you strike up conversations and you meet people. Those are the elements that are the most important to me, is that you love your community and you love people and you love talking to new people. I mean, the rest is very teachable. The technology, the processes, all that's fine. You can't teach somebody to be social and magnanimous and want to be around people,
Yeah. So we're looking for an extrovert mayor of the town. Yes, they have to be capitalized and have some business acumen, but if that's kind of in their DNA, they're going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah, big time.
Cool. So Tapster already has locations like where you are in Philly, you're in Bellevue, Washington, so you're across the country. We talked about Lexington, you're in Chicago, where you're from, Seattle, Cleveland. What have you learned from these diverse markets, and where do you think you're going to grow next?
It's been a wild ride, but a good learning ride too, right? So the drinking habits in Seattle are much different than the drinking habits in Philadelphia, right? So in the summer in Philadelphia, everybody goes down to the Jersey Shore. They all leave the city and the city's kind of empty. So those are our slower months. In Seattle, which is usually dark and rainy in other seasons, the summer is gold. So that's our highest season. So just seasonality is one thing, but also just drinking styles too. So people in Philadelphia, they love IPAs. They're seasonal drinkers. So in the summer, they love lagers. In the winter, they do like stouts and porters and IPAs. In Seattle, it's year round. They absolutely love IPAs and ciders. I've never seen anybody like ciders more than people in Seattle. I think it's because they have fresh, kind of fresh everything out there. Right. But it's been fascinating. We had to add more taps of ciders that did that well. So I think those are really interesting parts, the seasonality of it, the types of things people are drinking. But I think in general, across the country, the concept really works as a place for people to come together, for people to hang out. And it really alleviates a lot of stress. Sometimes people stress out about going to a bar or restaurant
right.
when they have to go up to the bar and get a drink, or where's my server, or what do I, we got to split the tab. It's just a lot easier here, and it lowers the stress. So people are just a lot more relaxed at Tapster. They're a lot more easygoing. That's what I've learned across the country, which makes me really proud, because that's what I want. Yeah.
And it seems like Tapster can kind of go in anywhere USA and work. But do you guys have any specific target markets where you kind of see the next wave of locations opening?
Yeah. So we have 2 new franchisees coming on in the next year, or 6 months actually. So Denver, we're close to signing a lease. Okay. And then in Long Island, we're going to be signing a lease as well. So those 2.
Very cool.
But I do think a huge market for us is just the Midwest and the East Coast. I think in general, towns across the Midwest and the East Coast, people are really social. People are really getting out. They love sports. They want to support their teams. They want to be at a place where they can hang out and do that. And for me, I personally, as I've been in such tier 1 cities, Seattle and Chicago and Philadelphia, I'm learning at cities like Lexington, Kentucky, or Bellevue, Washington. These tier 2 and tier 3 cities are really where I'm going to try to aim, because there's lower cost, lower threshold, but still a lot of people going out and being social. So that's kind of where I want to aim it at, is these smaller kind of markets where it's easier for franchisees to build it out and more inexpensive than in a big city. That's really my goal.
Yeah, it's like when we went to Lexington, my wife and I had never been there until my kid was like, hey, I want to go to college here. And we went and we're like, wow, this town's amazing. Like it's, I don't know, 200,000 people like at max. And you guys have your spot right across from Rupp Arena, which is like, I mean, when you get to downtown Lexington, you see a skyscraper. It's not Manhattan, but it's like a real city. And, but it's got that local feel, and the people are super friendly. And I love the hospitality, great food. So I can see a lot of towns across America that kind of fit that description would be a really good fit. And in terms of your footprint, I know there's going to be variance in that, but like, do you have a target square footage that you'd like to see? And I'm sure the economics depend on, the cost per square foot and whatnot, but what's kind of our range for the size of your space?
Yeah, I think on average, it's been about 2,500 to 3,500 square feet. Okay. But 3,000 to 3,200 is kind of the sweet spot of what we want to do. Awesome. Outside area is key. So moving forward, having a patio is really crucial, or a separate room that you could do private events or weekly events, like a painting class or an exercise class. Those are really important to me. But that 3,000 square feet is really kind of clutch.
Okay. And then that kind of leads me into item 7. So I'm sure you have a big range depending on if it's a gray box and you have to put everything in, or if it's a vanilla shell, or it's a second gen space. I know you have a specific equipment package as it relates to the beer wall and everything, but what is the range to open a Tapster franchise?
Yeah, I'd say the range on the lowest end, it'll be around 350,000, and on the high end, 800,000. That's kind of the range that I'm seeing right now, and obviously depending on market. I'm sure you get a lot of squirrely answers when you ask that.
Well, because, in your space, there's such a variance based on the condition, right? And then, of course, the landlord might contribute some TI money, and you can't bank on that, but sometimes it can be pretty handsome. So,
and what I've learned too is second generation bar restaurants is our sweet spot. So unfortunately, there's a lot of, fortunate for me, but unfortunately for the market, there's a lot of bars and restaurants that have gone or are going out of business right now. And so if we can capitalize on that, there's a lot of infrastructure already in place that we can utilize and just flip the bar into a self-pour bar. That's really our sweet spot.
Awesome. And I know that Mike couldn't join us today. He's your president of franchising. and he formed Community Franchise Group after decades of experience in the space. You know, is there anything you want to add about Mike and his team before we wrap up today?
Yeah. So Mike Weinberger has been a huge eye opener for me just working with him, because I'd never known anybody in franchising really before I started this. He, has grown and done such good job. He's helped me learn the infrastructure needed to be a good franchisor. I thought just being a good franchisor was, hey, I'm with you when we open. I tell you how I do things. I train you on my processes, and then you go and we check in each week. For being around him, it's really a lot more accountability and infrastructure around the whole process, from before you sign the lease until opening day and then throughout. So it's been really amazing working with him and his team, and eye-opening for me on what's the best way to evaluate not just a franchisee, but how the franchisee is performing and how to help them. I mean, my real goal with franchise being a franchisor is that I love what I do. I genuinely love it. And if I can help other people do this and they enjoy it half as much as I do, they're going to have a blast. So being able to share this really is my juice. Like I love what I do. So why not help other people do it and let them feel ownership and grow this thing too?
Yeah, it's great that you and Mike have made a deliberate effort to put responsible franchising at the forefront of what you do, to make the franchise owner's experience one that they know they're supported every step of the way, because that's really what leads to a great partnership. Roman, this has been great. Anything else you want to add to the mix before we wrap up today?
No, I just say you can find us in all the markets you mentioned, but on Instagram, it's at Tapster Tasting Room, or at Tapster Seattle, at Tapster Philly, at Tapster Chicago, at Tapster Lexington. So please check us out, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, and I will definitely add those links when I post this on the various platforms. So if anyone listening would like to connect with Roman and his team and Mike to learn more about becoming a franchise owner with Tapster, contact me at FranchiseQB or on X at QBFranchiseQB, and I'll get you connected. Thank you so much, Roman, for taking the time to get in the huddle with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Franchise QB podcast, where you're at the helm of your future as a franchise owner. If you enjoyed the content, please rate the show and recommend it to anyone that might be interested in franchising. Make sure to visit franchiseqb.com to subscribe to my newsletter and for an actionable playbook to go from walk-on to legend in your new business. Follow us on Twitter at QBFranchiseQB and join us every week for a new episode. See you next time.
Visit franchiseqb.com to take the next step of your journey towards wealth, independence, and franchise ownership. And remember, when working for the man gets old, you must do something bold. Thank you for listening.